We have dealt with how to help a young student get into blues playing and also into playing rhythm changes. I'd like to illustrate those same principles now with a standard bebop kind of a tune. This is one I use a lot. It's not so difficult. It's spelled out in the book. This is the Real Jazz Pedagogy book. It's found on at Amazon.com or jazzbooks.com or barnesandnoble.com, outskirtspress.com, the Real Jazz Pedagogy book. You're going to want to refer to that book because I'm just kind of illustrating some oral examples of those things. And I'd like to illustrate how I would take another tune and do the same kind of thing that I would do to the rhythm changes and to the blues. So what is that? Number one, I define the guide tones. Now I'm not dealing with learning to play the melodies here, but of course I haven't learned to play the melody. Then I would work on the guide tones. Then I would create a framework for the tune that involves the guide tones. These are kind of patternish things, as you're seeing. They're like patterns, but that's okay. They help to develop jazz vocabulary. Then we'll learn ways of variation on those, on what we've learned as a framework for the tune. I'm going to take this bebop tune and do the same kind of a thing to it. Okay, so first here are the guide tones.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I could do another level. And then we're at the bridge. Not going to worry about the bridge right now. We'll come back on that in a minute. Those are the guide tones. Now, how am I going to flush around those? I'm actually using some simple patterns here. So all the major chords, I'm going to go 7, 1, 3, 5, 7. Now, again, you can find this on page 172, 173, 174, the stuff I'm going to be doing here, 175 for the next few minutes, all in the jazz pedagogy, the Real Jazz Pedagogy book. All right, so I'm going to, for all the majors, I'm going to start with running from the 7. Bear in mind that on a major chord, the root sounds dumb. You want a hip sounding note, and the 7 is much cooler, so we're going to focus around the 7. I also need that on this key, down a step. I need it down one more step. And then it goes back to the first one. Those are the only keys I actually need this in. Then the second thing I'm going to do is a pattern for the 2 5s. So it's very simple. It goes up the chord, down the scale. But built into this is the 7 to the 3 guide tone. So it's going to sound like this. All right, then I'm going to, right now I'm just forcing those patterns on every chord. Of course, this is not how we're going to improvise, but this is a starting place to really get the lay of the land here on these changes. So I've got the guide tones, and now I've got some patterns based around those guide tones that still include the 7 to the 3 guide tones. So when I do this, it really wants to go to the 3rd. That flat 7 going to the 3 is guide tone from the dominant to the tonic right there. So if I let it do that, then I need a new pattern for the major, and I'm going to use 3, 7, 2, 7, 1, 2, 3, 5. I need that in each of the keys. All right, so now I'm going to put that in there. Same patterns on the 2 5s. So I'm just using the A section for this. This is an AABA tune. All right, now I can start varying. This might take, I might just have the student do that very first version or force down to the 7. I might just have them do that right for first version for a whole week before we even worry about any variation. Then we'll just maybe depending on the age of the student and how quick the student can be. I am a firm believer that you can teach anything to any student at any age level if you just teach the right amount at the right time. You don't want to overwhelm them and bury them, but if you teach the right amount, you can gradually build up. With a younger kid, it's going to be a more gradual build. With a more advanced student who has more technique already built up, maybe more understanding already built up, it's going to move faster. So I'm going to have the students add a little bit at a time. So the next thing I would add is, instead of going on the 2 5s, let's go down. So now we're using directional variation. I went up, down. Now I'm going down, down. Down the chord, down the scale. And I need that in each of the keys. Bear in mind that that last 2 5 is a minor 2 5. So it's a half diminished 2, not a minor 2. And it's an alter dominant. We're using the flat 9 on it. So I'm doing the same patterns on the minor 2 5. I'm just reflecting the flat 5 and the minor chord, the flat 5 and the 2 chord, and the flat 9 and the dominant chord, which is the same note. So let me illustrate that now. And if I'm going down on that minor chord, maybe I go down on the major. I had this. I could go. So I'm going to start on the 7 and go down instead of start on the 7 and go up. So it'll match going down on the other one. So that's one way to do it. What if I just let it resolve now the way it wants to? Then I'm only going to get to do that pattern on the very first one. So you would be surprised how I've got many students have lasted on this, and this can be a real turning point. Once they've got these things starting to happen, they just mature over a little period of time, and they get in the head and they start incubating and they crossbreed and they develop other ideas and ways of doing things, and it's surprising how much just a little of this work will actually accomplish. So now we've done this pattern on the major. We've also done this, just the reverse direction. We've also done this. If I resolve to the 3, then I need to be able to go. Depending on what key I'm in. So 3 7 1 7 3 7 2 7 1 2 3 5. I've got those patterns. Now, what if I take this another direction on the 2 5s? Now I'm going to go up, up. So I'm going to go up the chord and then up the scale. The 7 to 3 is still built in there. This is critical. So now I'm going to go up, up, and it seems to me that it best resolves melodically to the 5th of the major chord after that, which is what I played a moment ago. I could go up. Either way, if I resolve to the 5th, then I need something for the student to do on the major chord that starts on the 5. So then we use this. 5 3 2 1 7 1 3 5. Now, all right, I'll put it in the sequence of the tune now. So let's say that I'm now locked into that pattern each time. So. Sorry, keep track of what I'm doing here. So now I've got 3 variations for the minor, for the 2 5. I've got up, down. I've got down, down. Now I've got up, up. What if I go one more then? Down, up. So that'd be it. Still coming to 5, so I'm going to still use that pattern on the 5. 5, 3, 2, 1, 7, 1, 3, 5 on the majors. So no, up, up, sorry. Can go up. All right, so I've got 4 variations now for the 2 5s. I've got the major. I've got 4 variations for the major chords as well. I'm just patterning, patterning, patterning. This is totally an exercise, but it really helps to develop some jazz vocabulary and the hang of things. And you'd be really surprised once the kids get this stuff all programmed into the left brain here, how much this starts to serve. If we've already done rhythm changes, then we could add one more thing, because on rhythm changes we went down from the 5th. Losing my mic here. On rhythm changes we went down from the 5th, 5, 3, 1, 7 down to 3, and then popped up to 8. Remember this? If you haven't watched it, you can watch that. But so now I could do something like this. So I'm using now this is a 5th pattern that we could do on those 2 5s. And then if you remember all the variations that we did on the rhythm changes with that pattern, we could actually start adding, this is all of course over a period of time, we could start adding the altered notes on there. So now maybe we're doing anyway, you get the idea. By the time I've got all these things down and I start mixing them up, see, at first I'm going to have the kids practice these one at a time, keep it exactly the same on every one. I'm going to play a little bit of the recording again and play with it, mixing up the ideas. Okay, so we're mixing up all the patterns.
2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Here on the bridge, the patterns are same key but twice as long. So I will give the students patterns for this as well. But right on the end of the bridge, I have to get those short patterns the same as the others, like this. Etc. Let me turn this off. And I really am improvising now. I've got the materials in hand. I'm organizing the materials, but I've practiced some of those organizational patterns so that I've got something to work with. By mixing it all up, changing rhythms, changing range, I've got a lot of opportunity to improvise on this tune, and that's how I would get somebody started on this. I can basically make this kind of a framework for any tune that's like this. I can figure out the guide tones, make a framework around the guide tones, practice the framework to death, then practice variations using direction, register or range, rhythm, and when appropriate, alteration. And I've got a lot of stuff going on now, and this stuff will incubate. It will get in there and it'll crossbreed and multiply. It's like rabbits, and pretty soon things start to really happen. I've been just totally dumbfounded with how much this helps students, just this kind of work. And then I've got harder tunes that I'll use that do the same kinds of things, but they go through more keys and more difficult keys, faster tempos, and so on until I got the kids really cooking on this stuff. So hopefully that gives a kind of a pattern of an idea of how you can help a student with a tune if you're really working on the left brain. Now the right brain, of course, I'd be playing by ear with this tune before. I'd listen to other soloists. I'd even transcribe possibly some solo material on this. But then I would do this kind of left brain work, and now it all hopefully comes together in a double dominant approach, and we've got the students really on their way. So I hope that's helpful. Please do check out the Real Jazz Pedagogy book, and use that in conjunction with these videos, and it will really help to bring things clear for you. Thanks.